very good morning to respected Principal in charge, sir, Headmaster, sir, Senior Master, sir, Senior Mistress, ma'am, teachers, and my friends. Today, I, Pragya Chetri of 12 Humanities B and my friend Hriday Raj Chetri of 12 Humanities C would like to welcome all of you to this virtual celebration of the Constitution Day. As we all are gathered here to celebrate the landmark in the political history of our nation, I would like to give you a brief introduction of this day. Constitution Day is celebrated in our country on the 26th of November annually in order to commemorate the adoption of the Indian Constitution. On 26 November 1949, the Constituent Assembly adopted the Indian Constitution, which came into effect on 26 January 1950. The founding fathers of our Constitution envisioned India to be a successful democracy. Thus, the Constitution proclaims India to be sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, reassures its citizens of justice, equality, liberty, and strives to foster fraternity.
An important part of the celebrations is the reading of the preamble to the Constitution and reaffirming our commitment to uphold its ideology. This year, the Honorable Prime Minister will lead the reading of the preamble at 11 a.m. on 26 November 2020 during the conference of All India Presiding Officers at Kevadia, Gujarat. Therefore, I would like to read the preamble, which is the heart and soul of our Constitution. We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic, and political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship, equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of the nation. In our Constituent Assembly, this 26th day of November 1949, do hereby adopt, enact, and give to ourselves this Constitution. The Indian Constitution has withstood the test of time, but the majority of us still don't know its significance or the process of its implementation. So now, we have Shrishti Goswami to enlighten us about the Indian Constitution and its importance.
A constitution is an aggregate of fundamental principles or established precedents that constitute the legal basis of a polity, organization, or other type of entity and commonly determine how the entity is to be governed. When these principles are written down into a single document or a set of legal documents, those documents may be said to embody a written constitution. If they are encompassed in a single comprehensive document, it is said to embody a codified constitution. The Constitution of India is the supreme law of India. The document lays down the framework demarcating fundamental political code, structure, procedures, powers, and duties of government institutions and sets out fundamental rights, directive principles, and duties of citizens. It is the longest written constitution of any country on earth. B.R. Ambedkar, chairman of drafting committee, is widely considered to be its chief architect. It imparts constitutional supremacy and was adopted by its people with a declaration in its preamble. Parliament cannot override the Constitution. It was adopted by the Constituent Assembly of India on 26 November 1949 and became effective on 26 January 1950. The Constitution replaced the Government of India Act 1935 as the country's fundamental governing document, and the Dominion of India became the Republic of India. To ensure constitutional autonomy, its framers repealed prior acts of the British Parliament in Article 395. India adopted its constitution on 26 January as Republic Day. The constitution declares India as a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, assuring its citizens justice, equality, liberty, and endeavors to promote fraternity. The original 1950 constitution is preserved in a helium-filled case at the Parliament House in New Delhi. The words secular and socialist were added to the preamble in 1976 during the emergency. Thank you.
The Indian Constitution is a result of endless discussions and debates undertaken to serve the best interests of the citizens of our country. It is an immensely difficult task to come up with a constitution that accommodates the various demands of such diverse communities in our country and promote unity amongst them. Up next, we have Anna to elaborate on the drafting of the constitution.
The Constituent Assembly met for the first time in New Delhi on 9 December 1946 in the Constitution Hall, which is now known as the Central Hall of the Parliament House. The Constituent Assembly took almost 3 years, 2 years, 11 months, and 17 days to be precise, to complete its historic task of drafting the Constitution for independent India. During this period, it held 11 sessions covering a total of 165 days. Of these, 114 days were spent on the consideration of the draft constitution. On 13 December 1946, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru moved the objectives resolution. The total membership of the Constituent Assembly was 389. However, after partition, the total number of seats came down to 299. Rajendra Prasad was elected as the chairman of the Constituent Assembly. The vice president of the Constituent Assembly was Harendra Kumar Mukherjee. Juris B.N. Rao was appointed as the constitutional advisor. He also prepared the original draft of the constitution. A major chunk of deliberations of the Constituent Assembly was on the draft constitutions prepared by the drafting committee. Members of the Constituent Assembly proposed amendments which had to be submitted in advance to the chairman, and these were debated at length. At the end of a debate around an article of the draft constitution, the Constituent Assembly either adopted or rejected amendments. It took decision through a majority vote. The Constituent Assembly, at various points during the constitution making process, appointed a number of committees on different aspects of the constitution to conduct preliminary research and deliberations within a smaller groups. The work of these committees took the form of reports which were discussed in the Constituent Assembly. The constitutional advisor B.N. Rao compiled reports of various committees to prepare a draft constitution, which is submitted to the drafting committee. Decision making in the committees was on the basis of a majority vote, and members could record their dissents through decision if they wished. On 29 August 1947, the Constituent Assembly, through a resolution, appointed a drafting committee. The drafting committee had 7 members: Aladi Krishnaswamy Iyer, N. Gopalaswamy, B.R. Ambedkar, K.M. Munshi, Mohammad Sadullah, B.L. Mittar, and D.P. Khaitan. On 29 August 1947, the Constituent Assembly set up a drafting committee under the chairmanship of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar to prepare a draft constitution for India. The drafting committee and its members were very influential in Indian constitution making during the committee stages and the deliberations of the Constituent Assembly. The Constitution of India was adopted on 26 November 1949, and the honorable members appended their signatures to it on 24 January 1950. In all, 284 members actually signed the Constitution. The Constitution of India came into force on 26 January 1950. On that day, the Assembly ceased to exist, transforming itself into the Provincial Parliament of India until a new parliament was constituted in 1952. Constitution has borrowed some features but drafted according to the historical perspective geographical diversity, cultural and traditional characteristics of India. And we cannot forget the words of the chairman of drafting committee, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, had said in this regard that there is nothing to be ashamed of in borrowing. It involves no plagiarism. Nobody has any patent right in the fundamental ideals of a constitution. The Constitution of India has several salient features that distinguish it from the constitutions of other countries, and these makes our constitution unique in its content and spirit. Indian constitution is the most unique and the lengthiest written constitution in the world, and one factor contributing to it having been drawn from many different sources. The Constituent Assembly assessed many constitutions and drafted one, taking all the provisions that best apply to the India's diversity. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar rightly claimed it to be framed after ransacking the known constitutions. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar is also known as the drafter and the father of Indian Constitution. Thank you.
Dr. B.R. Ambedkar was undoubtedly the most prominent member of our Constituent Assembly and the founding father of our Constitution. The tremendous efforts put by him and the other members of the drafting committee saw to the creation of a constitution that has led India to become a successful and the largest democracy in the world. So now we have Srija Kundu to give a speech on Dr. Ambedkar and the other members of the drafting committee.
Drafters of the Constitution. The drafting committee had 7 members: Sir Alladi Krishnaswamy Iyer, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, K.M. Munshi, Mohammad Sadullah, N. Gopalaswamy, B.L. Mittar, and T.P. Khaitan. The drafting committee elected B.R. Ambedkar as its chairman. B.R. Ambedkar was the chief architect of the Indian Constitution. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. In the world, the great man first has to be born in the form of the great man, and then he has to prove himself the great man by his enriched personality with virtues and his great capability. According to such a rule of the world, Dr. Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar was born in the form of the great man on 14th April 1891 at Mahu in Madhya Pradesh of India. Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar, also known as Baba Saheb Ambedkar, was an Indian scholar, jurist, economist, politician, and social reformer who inspired the Dalit Buddhist movement and campaigned against social discrimination towards the Dalits, while also supporting the rights of women and labor. He was independent India's first Minister of Law and Justice, the chief architect of the Constitution of India, and the founding father of the Republic of India. In his later life, he became involved in campaigning and negotiations for India's independence, publishing journals, advocating political rights and social freedom for Dalits, and contributing significantly to the establishment of the state of India. In 1990, the Bharat Ratna, India's highest civilian award, was posthumously conferred upon Ambedkar. Ambedkar's legacy includes numerous memorials and depictions in popular culture. Thank you.
The features of the Indian Constitution, much like the people it represents, are a diverse assimilation of ideas and beliefs. Inculcating the best parts of the other constitutions of several countries, our constitution as the best, the most unique, and the longest written constitution. So now we have Rishabh and Joshua to highlight the uniqueness of our constitution, the sense of the and the reason as to why we still follow it.
There are many features which make the Indian Constitution unique and sets it apart from other countries. It is the longest written constitution of the world. It contains quite elaborate provisions regarding governance of the country, even those which are generally left aside by other constitutions to be dealt with by ordinary law. Call it a cut, copy and paste constitution or call it an amalgamation. The Indian Constitution draws upon the rich experience of working with various other nations and has made the amalgamation of their features to create a unique constitution for India. The Constitution has a unique privilege of being the one to which a wide variety of ethnicities, religions, and communities swear allegiance to. The ethnic diversity of India needs no mention. We have many religions in this country which have openly embraced the people of majority of, if not all, the religions of the world. While some term it to be federal, the Constitution creates a unique system of federalism, which in the sphere of political science, some have called to be quasi-federal. While it provides for governments and legislatures at 2 levels, it makes the center very strong. In terms of emergency, it actually gives out the potential of a normally federal machinery to become a unitary one. Quite contrary to systems in US, Australia, and even Canada, Indian constitution adopts a unified judiciary and not a federal form. All laws, state and central, are interpreted and applied by the same judiciary. The Supreme Court created by the Constitution in itself is quite a unique one. Its writ runs large over the length and breadth of this huge country. While even Canada, Australia, and US still had minor disparities from the rule of universal adult franchise, India gave all the men and women above the age of 21 the right to vote in 1950s itself. The voting age was reduced to 18 during the 1980s. The Bill of Rights in the Constitution, the Part 3 of the Constitution, is one of the most updated one, if one may argue. One would find almost all the human rights found in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, 1948, in some or the other form in Part 3. This is despite the fact that provisions of fundamental rights were settled in most part prior to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It contains the civil and political rights as well. Part 4 recognizes but does provide for justiciability of the economic and social rights. Religious as well as linguistic and ethnic minorities have special rights under Article 29 and 30. This is in addition to the protection given to all religions under Article 25 to 28. And above all, when this country became independent, most foreign observers had expected it to fall into a heap of Balkan-like small states or into the yoke of dictatorship or military rule. The doomsayers first predicted a few years. Then they said till the lifetime of Nehru. Then they predicted dictatorship under Indira Gandhi. But India has remained democratic, and at least some part of the credit for the same is deserved to the Constitution. Thank you.
Implementation of the Indian Constitution. Though the major part of the Constitution came into force on January 26, 1950, the provisions relating to citizenship, elections, provisional parliament, and temporary transitional provisions came into force with immediate effect from November 26, 1949. While adopting the features of the Constitution from other countries, the members of the drafting committee also made it necessary that the modification for India's suitability and avoided their defects. The constitution which exercised profound influence on Indian constitution were that of UK, USA, Ireland, Canada, etc. The parliamentary system of government, rule of law, lawmaking procedure, and single citizenship were borrowed from the British Constitution. Independence of judiciary, judicial review, fundamental rights and guidelines for the removal of judges of Supreme and High Courts were adopted from the US Constitution. The federal system with a strong central authority was adopted from Canada. The directive principles of state policy were borrowed from the Constitution of the Republic of Ireland. The idea of concurrent list was borrowed from the Australian Constitution, and the provisions relating to the emergency were influenced by the Weimar Constitution. Above all, the Government of India Act 1935 exercised great influence of the Indian Constitution. The federal scheme, office of governor, powers of federal judiciary, etc. were drawn from this act. In short, the Indian Constitution incorporated the best features of several existing constitutions as it promoted unity in diversity. It points to India as an example of the fact that the fractionalized environment produce constitutional stability precisely because no single group can dominate others. Public ratification produces a more enduring constitution in democracies, but the same is not in autocracies. Indian constitution stood firm on some of these aspects. Inclusiveness during the formative years of constitution making debates, the specificity of the provisions that produced an excellent balance between the rediculant verbosity and the confounding ambiguity. Fundamental rights and judicial review being made sheet anchors of the instrument. Thank you.
70 years have passed and we're still following our constitution. A large part of this is because of the monumental efforts put into drafting our constitution. First, some basic principles were agreed upon, and then a drafting committee prepared a draft for discussion. More than 2,000 amendments were considered, and members deliberated for 114 days spread over 3 years. Another major reason why the Constitution is still holds up to this day is because of its perfect blend of flexibility and rigidity. The Indian Constitution can be amended to suit the needs of the Indian citizen during changing times. And now over to Pragya.
Now, I would like to request our Honorable Principal in Charge, Sir, to say a few words on this prestigious day.
To my dear colleague, especially the members of the history department and political science department, and all other teachers, those who have joined, and my dear students. I can see there are around 50 to 60 students they have joined. I was expecting, few more students, especially from the humanities stream. Anyways, I have heard, the whole conversation, the whole presentation, and I have learned many things because neither I am from political science department nor from history department. But I have summarized the whole thing that you have discussed, for last, 20, 30 minutes. As just I want to share with you. As you all know, today is 26th of November 2020. Exactly 71 years back. That means in the year 1949, we have taken a place to introduce democracy to fulfill the aspirations of the millions of people in India. Today is the day to remember the utmost sacrifice, hardship that our forefathers had taken up to liberate the people from slavery. Apparently, a constitution is a set of basic rules that allows to constitute our country. A constitution can be voluminous, very short, flexible, or rigid, but it is not the real identity of a constitution. Rules and regulations are the dry bones of constitution. The philosophy is the flesh that takes constitution beautifully and make it lively. The preamble of the Constitution of India was written by our first Prime Minister, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, and the rest of the Constitution was evolved by the Constituent Assembly under the able guidance of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. The preamble is the real guideline to the future citizen of India to take the nation from strength to strength. It is often said that Indian Constitution has literally taken many ideas and philosophies from other constitutions, but we have adopted and applied in the real life situation and proper context. We have not only adopted the ideas, but we have also assimilated those ideas to uphold the dynamic and great spirit of democracy in real socio-political and economic perspective of our country. Today, we remember solemnly those great architects whose prudent path and ideas enriched us and delivered a successful democratic republic. When the rest of the world is showing restlessness, bigotry, and narrowness of various forms, India is showing a different path of amity, love, and togetherness. We realized during the dark days of emergency the value of democracy and freedom. It is in fact many problems are awaiting to be solved. Yet our pledge is to consolidate our strength to ensure the most coveted democracy for each and every member in our society and make our country, proud. I wish a very happy Constitution Day to each and every member, of this country, and thank you very much.
With this, we have come to the end of the program. We would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to the principal in charge, the senior mistress, the senior master, Pradipta Chakravarti sir, Sargam Thapa ma'am, Smita Majumdar ma'am, and the management team at Delhi Public School, Siliguri, for giving us this opportunity and taking the pains to organize such an event, even in the midst of such adversity.
We hope that this program was informative and was successful in shedding light on this day, which was pivotal in the political history of our country. It is when we have learned how to interpret the past that we can read the present and imagine the power of the living. I once again would like to thank all the teachers and everybody else involved in this program, the audience for lending us their precious time and listening us. I hope that all of us will continue to uphold the value of and act responsibility.